So let's begin. So again, this is me. Now, let me give you some context about this talk, which is UX maturity, right? This talk, I have it as part of a bigger collection, I would say, series of talks called UX by Everyone. I started this initiative both at the company that I work for, which is Improving. You can check out my profile in LinkedIn later. But Improving is a consultancy firm in IT, and we have UX designers all across the US, Canada, and Mexico. And I also started this talk as part of a collection of talks also in Designlab. So I had this talk about the UX mindset way early in this year. I think it was April or March this year. I cannot remember. And this is just the second talk. So it's been a while since we haven't connected. But let me give you this map. So this is the map of the 4 talks I'll be talking in Designlab. And we have already been talking about this at Improving and in other external venues and places. So as you can see, UX maturity is the second stage of this journey, right? I call it the journey towards product excellence. And with the idea in mind that UX is something that it starts as a mindset and it becomes more tangible as it progresses in this journey. And it's a responsibility of everyone. This is the main idea, that UX is not only a design thing, it's more of a product thing. And product is done by multiple professionals, right? So UX is pretty much an endeavor that everyone should be jumping in to have product excellence, of course. So this is the second stage, UX maturity. This is our talk today. And I want you to take away this with you today as a main learning thing. Some of you may already know what UX maturity is. Some of you maybe not. It's the first time you hear about this term, or that's why you're here, because you're curious about to learn what this is, what this is about. So the takeaway is this, that it's a thing, and it's everyone's responsibility, especially yours after this talk, right? So this will be your takeaway, biggest takeaway. So let's talk about a little bit of history here. So UX maturity as a concept was conceived by Jacob Nielsen primarily in the early 2000s, more precisely in 2006. That's when he wrote an article at Nielsen Norman Group. And this article was kind of the first piece of information we have about UX maturity as a model, right? And as a model, there are many now, multiple. If you have a quick search in Google about UX maturity, you will get this. There are multiple ways of understanding UX maturity, but my goal here is to explain to you that we're going to be reviewing the concept, the model, one model specifically, which is the Nielsen Norman Group. I will say that's the most prevalent and is the most, I would say, yeah, it has the most traction, I would say, but there are multiple more. Actually, every company that achieves UX maturity comes up with their own model, and that's fine. That's actually the goal of any organization that is maturing in UX, that at the end they will have their own model, and that's fine. That's the goal, actually, to personalize the maturity. Of course, everyone is different, right? So let's not be too much concerned about which model to follow, which model to learn. Let's be more aware of the maturity model overall, like what it entails, right? So the 6-stage model that we have here is, of course, the evolution of that model that Jacob Nielsen wrote in 2006, which in the beginning had 8 stages. After a revision and after time, they kind of reduced it into 6. And it was, at some point, it was taken down to 5, and then it increased to 6. But anyway, it doesn't matter really how many stages. What matters is to understand that when you enter any team or organization that is trying to do UX work, there's going to be a level of awareness. no matter where you are, which company or which team. And that level goes from zero awareness to full time, all the time, we care about UX. That's the main concept. So in between, it's a journey. Some say if you want to mature a team or organization to become user driven, some say it will take, especially big organizations, it will take around 20 years. That's a lot of time. That's almost a career, a career of some of us in its entirety, right? So it's a big challenge. But I want you to learn what it entails to have a maturity model and what is exactly what you can do whenever you're working on a team that does UX or on an organization that is somehow learning about UX and implementing processes. So let's talk about those, all right? So let's go one by one. Let's first with the first level. Let's start with the first level, which is when UX is absent. When it's absent, nobody knows. People are unaware. As it says here, a company at this stage is either oblivious to UX or it does not need it. User-centered thinking is not at all part of how it works. So this is when maybe they don't even have designers in their team. They're doing products, they're developing websites, or I mean, it will be inconceivable, right? But it is true sometimes. There are still companies and organizations and teams that do not have UX people involved, and they're doing products and services. And we know what happens to those. Oh, we know, right? But yeah, then somebody says, oh, we need a designer here to make things beautiful. This is UX is absent. Beautiful? Come on. I mean, that's not UX. We don't make things beautiful, right? But that's the understanding. That's the basic awareness that we need somebody that takes care of the face of the product, the intuitiveness, etc. So make a note if you have a question about this. We can discuss it in a moment. But this is the first stage. Nobody knows about UX. Nobody cares. Nobody does it. There's no even designers in the organization. Now, the next level is when UX is limited, but at least there is. So there is an erratic approach to UX. There are small efforts here and there. There's maybe one or two designers doing the job, and they are struggling a lot. They don't even know what to do, but all they do is try to work in the team and make their job happen and make those interfaces and do wireframes and do some research here. Sorry. Do prototypes maybe, do some branding work, logo design. So there's no process, there's no structure, which is going to be some of the next stages is going to be when there's a structure. So it's limited because there are three main things. So small UX efforts are made because there's legal necessity, right? Especially when you are doing something about accessibility, right? That's legal necessity. Or maybe there are small efforts because there is an individual in the organization that is UX aware, hopefully is a leader, and is taking the initiative. So that's when he or she brings the first designer into the room, into the team. Or when there is an experimental team that is attempting to do some UX thing. So scatter efforts, silo work, type of work, no big structure. So it's very limited. The next stage could be when UX is becoming a thing. It's now emerging in the structure, in the ranks of the organization. Take a time to read this. Let's do it together. So when there's an organization where UX is emergent, when the maturity is emerging, is taking shape, these organizations exhibit UX work in more teams. There's especially maybe 2 or 3 UX people collaborating in multiple areas of the business, in different areas. So that there's a pattern emerging, right? They engage in some UX related planning, and maybe for the first time, they do have a budget. They say, we're going to keep a designer for the rest of the year. That's budget. That's the least amount of budget you can have. Hire a full-time UX designer for good. And now this person is going to be in charge of all the efforts internally about UX, right? So the UX efforts are going to be either small, unstable, again, scattered here and there, but at least now we have someone in charge. It says also some teams that use several research and design methods and do multiple research studies may begin to see the benefits and the results of those efforts. So level 3 is when you actually get a job description that says, oh, we're hiring a UX designer, be part of our UX team. That's an emerging, an organization that has UX maturity at the emergent level. Maybe you want to join that company. You will be part of those initial UX efforts at that company. And that could be challenging, but good, satisfying, good mission to have. Fourth is when there's a structure. When you have structure in the team, those organizations are going to start recognizing the value of UX, and they already have established a full-time UX team, or maybe a couple or 3 or more, right? That's when you have a really good foundation. And when you join this type of companies, this type of teams, you learn a lot. You learn as long as they are making this thing happen. And that's exciting to join a company like this, because you're not going to be establishing the patterns, establishing the structure yourself, which is in itself another bigger challenge. In this case, you're going to be part of the learning curve. And at the end, this type of structure will help you grow faster. Of course, you want to join to those companies either as a junior designer, maybe first, and then later jump into the previous stage, which is when you are in charge of the emergent situation in the organization. So structure is the best way to land, I guess. Then, well, not the best, but ideal for to start, at least to start your career as a UX designer. So the next level is when we have integrated UX in the whole company culture and process, right? So UX at least has become comprehensive, pervasive, and universal across all teams and the organization, especially in the leadership level. You have people understanding that UX is important. It's part of the business. And this is where almost all teams usually perform UX-related activities in an effective and efficient manner. There's a big, I would say, emphasis on innovation. They want to innovate. They're an innovation-driven company. So that's why they understand, and they are all in with UX, because they know UX yields innovation, right? So we have, for the first time, methodology, processes, and even experts in that company contributing to the field of UX outside, externally. So this is a great place to be, because you not only learn in this type of organization, but you are also enticed or motivated to go out there and talk about UX, because you have a foundation that is so strong that you feel confident you can share it with the world. We want to be those UX designers talking about UX to whole audiences, right? That's great. That is a big goal in your career, in everyone's career, to be sharing good knowledge, right? In this stage, also the organization has, for the first time, implementing success metrics, and they do evaluations every now and then. Leaders care most about having return of investment for the first time. They want to know for every dollar spent in the UX team and the UX efforts, there's going to be revenue. There's going to be impact. There's going to be improvements. Leaders care about this a lot, and this is when we have a focus on UX, and I would say every team in this organization involves some type of UX process in everything they do, right? Now, some might say, well, level 5 is a peak, is the summit of the maturity model. Yeah, probably yes. As I said in the beginning, there are multiple models. Some of them talk about 4 stages, some others about 5 and 6, like this one. Some others are more granular. So they take you by the hand, jumping between stages in a more granular way, more kind of a specific way, with multiple levels, up to 10 sometimes, or even more, if you want to be very picky and specific about how do you mature your teams or your organization as a whole. So level 5 is good enough, right? We will be happy to join a company that has a level of maturity that UX is integrated across the organization. That's very nice to be in a position of participating in a team like this. And level 6 on this particular model is about user driven. Everything the company, it's a lot of text here. I didn't have the time to summarize it, but I will say this. When every time there's a decision-making process, they do take into account the users. No matter who, when, and how they're doing it, they include user feedback all the time, every step of the way. So it's kind of a cherry on the pie. Level 5 could be the ultimate stage, but not all the time there's going to be decision-making processes, including user research and user feedback. But a level 6 company is when every time they do something, every time there's an initiative, there's going to be some sort of research, feedback loops, and product improvement based on those feedback loops. That's kind of the mark of level 6. What else it says here? Everyone is fully enlightened. He says this word, enlightened, about user-centered design. They understand the power of user-centered design. They have experienced it not once, not twice, multiple times. It's a thing. You get hired here, they're going to ask you, how many times have you done user research? Oh, you don't? Okay, you're going to be junior. I don't care how many years you have been doing user interfaces. If you haven't done any user research yet, you will be a junior in our ranks, in our processes, in our culture. You are a junior. You need to be a user-driven designer. You need to incorporate research in your process, right? All right, so these are the 6 stages in this particular model, which is the Nielsen-Norman Group model. And you might be asking yourself, then, how do we assess UX maturity where we work today? Maybe you're a student and you don't have to bother about this yet, but you need to take into account this information I'm providing to you. So when you go out there and look for jobs, you want to know, actually, this will be a good question to ask in that interview. Where do they see themselves in the UX maturity model? Do they have a model they're following? Do they have any idea of where they stand in the maturity process? That will be a great question to ask for you as a candidate, right? Because you want to be, again, in a level 4, level 5 company. Minimum level 3. You do not want to be in level 1 or 2. You don't. Unless you take the challenge and you become the cornerstone of design in the organization. But that's a bigger challenge. But people like me, I started a couple of those companies with that in mind, establishing the UX. I took it as a challenge myself in the beginning in my career. But of course, now I prefer to be part of a bigger organization where UX is at level 5, level 6. You will say, at your organization, Martino, where are you in the maturity level? We are at 3, transitioning into 4. Because again, we're not user-driven, of course. We're far away from that, maybe 10 years away from that. But every time we do a project in UX, we push salespeople, our client stakeholders, we push them to do UX research, to have feedback loops. And we have successfully done so in multiple engagements. So I would say, yes, we do sometimes at the engagement level because we are a consultancy. So every time I participate in a company's product development, we do user research. So you might say, okay, so that company, that team is a level 4, level 5, probably level 6 sometimes, when they actually have UX already structured and it's not emergent anymore. It's a structure and it's also user-driven sometimes. I participate in companies where they are very user-driven, and that's great to be part of a company with that type of culture. So how do you assess UX maturity? These are 9 ways of doing it. You can go one by one in order, or you can simply do one effort, number 5, then maybe number 3, then maybe number 8. It depends on you on how do you want to structure this effort. But you have to start with number 1 every time because you need to know where you are. You need to conduct this self-assessment survey. And after that, then you create a strategy to understand everybody else's understanding, awareness of UX, and then you go from there. And then you become the strategist, right? Yourself. I mean, I'm talking about assessing UX maturity as you are the person in charge of this. But if you join to a company that has already level 4, level 5, this assessment process is already in place. All you got to do is learn their own way, right? So this is kind of a recipe in case you are interested in learning more about how to assess UX maturity. There is this link, which I'm going to share with you, which is a Nielsen Norman Group self-reported UX maturity quiz. You can look it up in Google. I don't have a way to share it right now, but you can look it up. Just self-reported UX maturity quiz by Nielsen Norman Group, and you will see it's a 10-minute form, 10-minute quiz where you are asked multiple things, and you will have an idea of what are the things you need to take care about. You need to think about in your team or in the organization you are part of. If you're a student, there's no point of doing it right now, but become aware of all this, right? So this is where we almost end. We're going to have a conversation now, but I like to think about UX in an organization where there's always a moment where you say, oh, you feel like Marty McFly. You feel like, hey, Doc, people don't get us. People don't understand UX. And Doc says, well, Marty, let's go back and fix that. It feels every time that I'm trying to pitch a stakeholder a UX process or a UX method into the development of any product or service we're helping with, I feel like they don't get us. And I need to take 2 steps back and try to do things differently to make them understand and make them value UX. But again, understanding that UX maturity model is all about becoming aware that any given team, organization, company will have a different level of maturity. So you want to identify that right off the bat and then decide what is your next move. Knowing the UX maturity allows you to do the next steps more consciously. It puts you in a situation where you can gain control of your own career, right? You're not going to be expecting things that are not fair, either for you or the organization. It is not fair to join a level 2, level 1 company and expecting to learn UX. It's not fair. Come on, it's not going to happen, right? You want to learn UX in a company, go for level 3 at least. There you go. So our mission is to help you become aware so you don't have to go back in time as Marty McFly, and you can live in the present and be fine with it. So with this in mind, let's have an open conversation. I will invite you if you want. We are 21 people in this chat, in this talk. I will invite you to open your mics, and if you have questions, observations, comments, feel free to join me in this conversation. Who is the first one who wants to say anything? I will open the mics. Actually, let me ask you. Yeah, can you open your mics? Because I don't know if the configuration is set up in a way that is not going to be possible. There is a question. Okay, so Allison asks, how does this help me get a job as a student? Great question. Actually, number 3, right? So question number 3. It's not about that understanding UX maturity is going to help you get a job. But when you're looking for a job, as I said, you want to know where that organization is in the UX maturity model. Let's say you have a model that you want to follow and you want to ask, which level of maturity you have at your organization? That's a very valid, legit question. And it's a very interesting one, because if the hiring manager understands UX maturity and you ask the question, that's a check. That's a big green light. You're going to show that you understand beyond design, you understand business. That's a great question to ask. So that UX manager will say, oh, Ali knows about this. So I'm interested to learn more about Ali, and let's see if this is a good match. So if the hiring manager says we're level 3 somehow, and he or she is going to show you the model themselves, and then is going to help you learn where they are, and that's when you decide this is a match for me, or no, it's not a company I want to go for, work for. They're level 2, like initial stages on maturity. That will not be the best environment for me to grow. So it's not helping you to get a job, it's helping you to be happy at your job, at your next job. Does that help, Ali? Who else? Chat. Yeah, there's no microphone feature. Oh, that's a bummer. Yeah, okay. Okay, Alison, I'm glad you get clarity on that one. Anyone wants to type a question maybe? I don't know how to make the microphone open for everyone here. Settings maybe? Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to mess it up. So Wendy asks, do you know what level of maturity companies like Google or Apple have? I will say they are level 5 or 6. Mostly level 5. I'm not sure about level 6, but in this model, definitely level 5. Why? They do have, especially Google and Apple, both, they do have design languages done by themselves, shared to the world. For example, Apple has its own human interface guidelines. That is a design language they came up with because their design maturity, their UX maturity was high enough, so they are able to share it to the world. We know more than anything that Apple is a design-driven company. since the beginning, since Steve Jobs took that typography class, right? He understood design, the value of design, since he or stakeholders at early years of Apple decided to hire specialists in UX or human interface design. You know, remember Don Norman? He worked at Apple in the 80s and 90s, I think. And he actually had this office called User Experience Architecture, the Office of User Experience and Architecture, something like that. So they were one of those companies that in the beginning they set up to be an authority in design. So yes, level 5 for sure. Google, it started with no UX at all, nothing. And it gradually became an authority in UX. So we can say that after a few years, maybe 10 years in the Google company life, they, for the first time, decided to make a design language called material design that came around 2009, 2010, if I recall correctly. And since then, you see all products at Google have a very good UI design, a good experience. They have improved a lot their products, even better than Apple sometimes. So yes, for sure, 5, number 6 level, for sure. Okay. Okay, sure. Oh, yeah, sure. Good to have you here. So yeah, I'm glad this is helping you. Oh, there was an earthquake. Oh, this morning. Okay, so you're fine. Good. Well, great way to break the ice. I'm happy you're fine, Jessica. Actually, I'm traveling to LA next week. I'm going to Disneyland. So let's see how it goes. I hope everything is fine. The heat wave, I hope, is gone, right? Wendy, thank you so much. Yes. Good. So feel free to put any other questions there. I'm going to move on here. I really hope we had the opportunity to talk. There's nothing better than talking as humans, as we are, right? So the next screen is just about talking to you about what comes in the future. Like once you assess UX maturity, you understand what the model is about, you understand the stages, and let's say you are working in an organization. Now the next thing is, how do you enhance? How do you move from one stage to the next, right? So that is enforcement, strategy, execution, process, steps you need to take, actions you need to. So I will be talking about this in maybe my next talk. I'm going to include these topics, but how do you enhance UX maturity in an organization? These are 10 ways. And you should do them all, but at least you need to start somewhere, right? So yes, recognizing the value of UX, cornerstone, first thing. Strategic investment in UX, level 1, you're starting to invest. Level 2, sorry, you're starting to invest in UX. So all these things, all the way to 10, it's about growing UX culture organically or in a structured way. We always going to be preferring in a structured way, because a structure gives you speed. It gives you ability to learn, correct, and improve. If you do it organically, hoping that everyone is going to get it sometime, it's going to take forever. You're not going to, actually, it's going to be really hard to really make things happen. You got to have a structure. So at some point, somebody has to take the lead and say, let's do this. Let's have a strategy. Let's start October 24. With whatever step you decide to take, you need to do that. Right? Sorry. So Ashur, it says, yeah, I had the same question as Ellis. Great. On the questions tab. Oh, yeah. So let me go there. Thank you. Let me go there to the questions. So Ellie says, are there any advantages of joining an organization with a low UX maturity? Well, the only advantage is that you're going to become a leader in UX. You want to be, as I said, you're going to be taking the challenge to become that person that takes the lead in that organization. So that is the benefit. You become, by putting yourself in this position, you will become the leader by accepting the challenge and making things happen yourself. So that is a benefit. You're not going to be learning, you're not going to be learning because they know. You're going to be learning externally because you want to learn. So that is a different mindset, right? Is there a way of reframing this to an opportunity? I don't get this question. Is there a way of reframing this to an opportunity? Yeah, maybe I want to get a clarity on the question, Ellis, there. So Ali says, what are your biggest red flags in terms of UX maturity? Of course, when you hear people talking about, oh, designers do beautiful things, let help us do better screens here. That is a flag that is telling you this organization is a level 1, level 2. They're very immature. They don't get it yet. There's need to be some sort of education internally. Someone needs to do this sort of talks where they say UX helps you to, the value of UX is this, and you're just saying it. They would say, okay, I get it, but they need to feel it. They need to learn. They need to, feel it, and they need to see the results in order to become a thing and elevate the maturity there. So, but biggest red flags, especially when you are level 1, level 2 organizations, people don't get UX. You feel like your job is not valued. That's a red flag. And you don't want to be there for long, right? Again, unless you accept the challenge of becoming the light in that company. How does this help me? Oh, we already addressed that one. So we're getting there, 40 minutes into the talk. I think there are no more questions. So Rob is joining a team with low maturity. With low maturity may lead to running into a lot of frustration and hurdles, but if you like to pioneer, it might be fun. Exactly, Rob. That is exactly the type of challenge you want to change. There's personalities for, we all have different personalities. So you want to become a leader, you gotta roll your sleeves and do the hard work, the dirty work, right? This is the occasion. Rise to that occasion. Become the UX leader. No matter how much you know more than they do. You are gonna be that person. So take the challenge. That would be one way of doing it. Ellie says you cover how to reframe the limited UX maturity opportunity. Okay, perfect. That's great. So again, how to enhance UX maturity? This is kind of a recipe, a roadmap of doing it. And of course, each one of these topics deserves its own talk. Okay, it's a lot of information there. So I'm gonna give you some free nuggets for you. These are some things I would suggest you go reading. Take a screenshot of this and go Google search those. If you get in touch with me, I can give you the links. I don't have a way to put the links right now, but get in touch with me, LinkedIn, send me an email or a message, and I can share with you these links so you can have more readings, more things to cover. These are my references. Of course, basically, Nielsen Normal Group for me is kind of I'm certified, a UX certified professional by Nielsen Normal Group, so I know a lot about what they do. So I trust them. The Interaction Design Foundation is another source of information. And actually, one of the free nuggets is a Designlab article that talks about that. More specifically, talking about you as a student, what type of UX environment is right for you. We cover those, but in this article, this article takes you deeper into those type of situations. So, with that said, I want to say thank you all. Ellis, thank you. Great discussion. Yeah, it's a pleasure. And feel free to reach out to me. That QR code is for my LinkedIn profile. You can go there and connect. And there's no more questions. So I would say have a great rest of the week. And I hope to see you around in Discord. And happy to meet you. Have fun. Take care.